Good. I assume you all know how to open Revit and open a project template. If you don't know how to, subscribe to our channel and watch some tutorial. Okay, so we're going to be covering a few things. We're going to go over some of the edit menus again, and then we'll go a little bit into massing. Is anyone here familiar with massing in Revit? Can you raise your hand, sorry? 7, 8. Okay, cool. So we have 8 assistant TAs. Guys, like Maria says, they are the assistants. So if you have questions, ask us, ask them. The more people there are, the better. So basically what Revit massing allows you to do is work with somewhat complex shapes and doubly curved surfaces. And I assume you guys know what doubly curved surfaces are already. But then, like, it's also very restricted to like the complexity of the geometry you're working with. And I'll show you a little bit of that when we start to deal with the massing. Okay. If anyone has any question, just feel free to stop me at any point. Okay, so let's start with the walls. I'm gonna create a wall, just a simple wall. Actually, no, you know what? Let's import something. Okay. So say for instance, you have a floor plan you're drawn in Rhino or AutoCAD, and you want to bring that into Revit, and you want to use that to model your project, which is usually a very easy way to go about that. You can link your CAD, or you can import the card. I would advise you use a link CAD, because what a link CAD does, they both do the same thing, but a link CAD allows you to sort of refresh your import. So if you made a change in your AutoCAD file, you can just, go to manage links, and you'll be able to like reload the linked file, and it would just effect the change, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's link a CAD file. Let's go to Dropbox. Okay, and I'm going to set that to, so you also want to know what unit you're working in. That's from the file you have exported. So if you exported in millimeters, you want to choose millimeters as your unit, and we're placing this at the first level, and origin to origin is what you should always go with. So let's just open that, and that would bring in my CAD file. And so this is some residential floor plan. Anyways, that's not important. But let's assume this is your floor plan, okay? Now, if we went back to the original floor plan in Rhino, and let's say we deleted that part, we made that change, and we saved this as a file again. We just overwrite the file, and we go back to Revit. Now we can go to our manage links, and you would find that under insert and manage links. And if you went to CAD formats, you would see the CAD file that you loaded. So just select that, and you can choose the option to reload it. And it says some elements were lost during import. Yeah, well, let's close that. Oh, maybe it's not done exporting, sorry. Let's go back here. Oh yeah, sorry, okay. So I wasn't done exporting, so I'm gonna export as default from Rhino. Click OK. Now let's go back to Revit. Select that file, go to insert, go to manage links, go to CAD formats, select that, and let's reload it. And when you reload it and you click OK, you would see that change effected. So it's a very easy and seamless way of working between CAD files, CAD drawings, and your Revit model. I'm going to undo that and save as. Yes. Okay, let's go back there and let's relink again. Whereas if you just import CAD, you'll go through the same process, but you wouldn't be able to update the link. You'd have to delete the file, go back and re-import it. Let's reload that. Let's click OK. Okay, so now I'm just going to draw a bunch of walls. Click wall. Now, if I'm going to draw over this CAD file, I can draw. So you would notice that when I move my mouse to like around the center point of the wall thickness, it has this sort of datum that it brings out, like a snapping line. So that can allow me to draw my wall to center point if my location line is already set to wall center line. On the other hand, I can set it to finish face interior, finish face exterior. So if I set it to a finish face interior, I click on the exterior face and it draws the wall on the interior side of it. And that would go like that and like that. And if I set it to wall center line, let's see, I can try and snap it to that center line and it would draw that. I mean, sometimes when you import it, you don't get that center line. It depends. So, and you can also do it in wall exterior. So let's just draw some walls. Okay. I'm going to draw that as quickly as I can. Actually, let's just do that. Now, instead of trying to figure out where the center line of that wall is to try and snap that back, I mean, I could do that. Or I could just go to my modify walls and click on the trim and select the first wall, select the second wall, and I can close that up. So trim in Revit actually works different from your conventional trim in AutoCAD and Rhino, where in AutoCAD and Rhino you select the components and then you trim the side you want to trim. So in Revit it works more like a chamfer, where you select one line and you select the other line and it just closes it. So now that I have my walls sort of modeled, I can hide my drawing if I don't want to see that anymore. And to do that, I'm just going to select the drawing. And when I right click, you'd see a bunch of options. You can repeat the command that you had previously ran. And you'd see that under recent commands. You can hide in view, which is what I want to do. Now, when you want to hide in view, there are two ways to do that. You can hide that element in view, or you can hide the category in view. And the element versus category means if I'm hiding the element, I'm just, let's say I had, so let's copy this just for illustration. So let's say I had two different imported CAD files, and I only want to hide this, this particular CAD file. I'm going to right click and say hide in view and go elements. So it would hide just that one CAD file. But if I went to hide in view and I said category, it would hide all of the CAD files in my view. Okay, and let's say I hit that and I want to show that now. I can go down to these icons on the bottom of the screen, and there is that icon that looks like a light bulb, and it says review hidden elements. And if I clicked on that, it would show all of my hidden elements in like a pink kind of color. And I'll just right click on that and say on hide in view, and it only gives me the option of category because I hid the category of CAD files in that view. So if I unhide in view by category, now it's no longer pink. That means it's not hidden, and I can turn that light bulb off again, and then I have them back in my view. So I'm just gonna hide them. Hide in view category. So now I've got these walls, and let's go to 3D view and see what that looks like. Oh, and there again I have my CAD files. I'm gonna hide in view category. Okay, so let's say for instance these walls are not supposed to be rectangular, just plain extruded walls. Let's say they add some sort of elevation or profile to them, and I wanted to edit each of those walls. I can go to the right view. If I want to edit this wall, go to the right view that of the wall that I've selected, and there is this option, because when you select a wall, it automatically takes you to the modified panel of that wall, and you can easily edit the profile of that wall. And so if I selected that, it would give me a sort of outline of the wall, and I can easily just, say draw a circle there, draw another circle. Actually, first of all, let's see what this looks like. So if I drew the circle in here, what that means is a hole in my wall. So let's go back there and let's edit again. I can draw another circle up here, and this time around I want to trim this circle against the outline of the wall. And in order to do that, this circle is one curve, and if I try to trim, like I just select the circle and select that, it's going to trim the line, but it's not going to trim the circle, because the circle is, when you think of it, it's like a closed polyline. And so in order for me to trim the circle successfully, I have to split the circle into, I have to give the circle, what is it called? What do you call the point where a polyline closes? Like the, geez, what's the name? Anyways, never mind. I'm just gonna split it. I'm gonna cut it at a point, and to do that, I'm gonna use this split element under the modify. I'm gonna do that, and then you have that point there where it's cut at. And now if I try to trim, go to my trim, select that, do that, select that, trim that. Now it trims everything because I've split the line at a point. And just press the check mark. And you've got that weird looking wall, whatever. Now let's say in this circular wall you want to have a curtain wall panel or mullions or whatever. You can, let's select that wall and go to our plan view. You can select that wall, go to your plan view, go to architecture, go to architectural wall, and under your list of types of walls, I'm not sure if Madia went through this already, you can select a curtain wall, and I'm just going to draw that curtain wall over top of my actual wall, and it's going to give you that error of highlighted walls overlap. You can ignore that. So let's go back to the 3D view, and I'm going to look for that curtain wall. That's the curtain wall. And I'm going to edit the profile of that curtain wall. So go back to the right view. And now instead of trying to draw a circle, I already have a circle drawn. So I can select the line of that circle by using the pick lines under the draw tool. So I'm just going to pick those lines, and I'm going to delete all of the other lines. Guys, am I going too fast? No? Okay. Any questions so far? You guys look so bored. Okay, and I'm gonna click the check. And now I have my, conventional wall, and then I have that curtain wall inside of it. So that's a way to edit a curtain wall profile and embed it in your solid wall. Okay. Now if I was gonna put a roof over this, and I was going to put some floors, I'll go back to my floor plan level, and let's start with the floor. And with the floor, I can just click architectural floor. You'd really not need anything more than that, unless you get into practicing your modeling details for exchange between professions. Now when I select the floor option, I can select walls to create my floor, which is kind of an easy way to do it because it automatically trims the corner lines for you. Or you can select lines, or you can draw it manually. You can pick any method, but I'm going to use the select wall. And when you when you try to select wall, so let's drop that line. Now you see that this line is on the exterior face of the wall, and I can easily flip that if I wanted to draw my floors on the interior face. And you can choose to draw your floor on the interior face or exterior face, depending on what you want to use your model for. If I want a really nice, clean model for nothing more than a 3D rendering or something, I like to draw it on the inside and have the walls just cover it on the outside. So that way you don't get like geometries overlapping or stuff like that. But if I'm going to make details out of it, I might draw it on the outside. So I'm just going to flip that to the inside. And now when I select all the other walls, they're going to, the lines are going to appear on the interior face of the wall. So select all the walls. And you'll notice that, for instance, this line stops here, but when I select that wall, it automatically joins it for you. So that's the advantage of using the select wall. Now that all my walls are selected, I can choose what kind of floor that I want. I'm going to go with the concrete slab 200. And I can set a height offset for that. We'll come back to that so, when the floor is done so you can see what the difference is. And I'm just going to click the check. And let's go to 3D view. And that's what our floor is looking like. And this doesn't look normal, like, because you wouldn't see that, you know. So I'm just going to drag that wall down so that it snaps. And instead of having to like drag all of the other walls down to snap with the level of the floor, I can do a match property. So I'm going to go to modify, and I think it's this one, match type properties. So just select that, click on that wall that you have already edited the height of, and select all the other walls, and you can just apply the same sort of properties to them. So now all of them go to the same level. Okay, once that is done, I can show you what the height offset does. So if you select that floor that we've created, and let's say that floor is supposed to be 200, say 200 millimeters above the level that it is at now, you just select the floor, go to height offset, and enter 200, and it pushes that floor up. For those of you who know Revit already, this is probably so boring, but bear, please. Okay, and now let's, yeah?
I'll just say be careful when you raise the floor like this, because when you add doors, your doors will be on the floor. So you better put the walls down than raising the floors. Usually.
Right. So yeah, so for instance, so this would be really applicable if in my design I had this floor level here, and let's say, yeah, and you know I had, let's go back to plan view, that's one floor, and I had another floor. Oh, and just not to skip, if you want to create a new floor and you already have an existing floor selected, you don't need to go back to architecture and floor and all of that. Just select that floor, and on the ribbon on the top, you would see the create similar icon. Just select that, and it automatically takes you to the floor mode. And I'm going to create another floor here, and that one is without any offset. And so if I went to my 3D view, on the interior side of the on the interior of the building, there are two levels of floor. So that would be a good way to like work with that. And you have to, like you said, you have to take note of that when you're putting doors. If you're putting a door here, you have to like offset it to 200 if it's on the 200 side of the floor level. Does that make sense, everyone? Good? Okay. I assume that's a yes. Okay, so let's make a roof. I'm going to go to, first of all, let's go to our south, one of the elevations. Doesn't matter which one. Now I've got level 1, which is my sort of main ground level. And I've got level 2, which is at 4,000 millimeters above level 1. Now I can decide to pull all of these walls down to my level 2. And to easily do that, instead of having to select the walls and like, you know, say edit the heights or whatever, I can select all of the walls and say, when you select them, go to the sidebar, and it would ask you for a top constraint. And you can select your top constraint and say level 2. And when you apply that, well, it gives you an error, says can't keep elements joined. Let's unjoin that. Can make extrusion. Let's delete that. Okay, and now it just brings all of those walls down to the level that you want them to be at. And of course, when you go back to your 3D, that has changed some things. So you'd remember the wall that we had edited before constraining all of the levels. It's gone because it was a complex wall and Revit didn't want to figure out how to like match that complexity with pulling the wall down. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to select this wall. And if I wanted this wall to go back to its original sort of like property or whatever, like characteristic, I'm just going to reset the profile. And it just makes it a flat wall. So you don't have to go back and edit. And now I'm going to select all the walls. And I'm going to constrain them to level 2. Okay. That's maybe because of this. Let's select the curtain panel. And I'm going to go to my level 2 now, and I'm going to try and draw a roof. So now that I'm in my level 2, you can see the floor plans that we hid in level 1 appearing in level 2. That's because there is something known as an underlay. And what an underlay allows you to do is reference the floor plan on the lower level when you're drawing a new floor plan on the upper level. And it's very useful, but if you wanted to turn that off, you can go to the sidebar of the view and just scroll to where you have the option of underlay, and shows what level is being laid under your current view, and you can just say none, and it just takes that away. So now I don't actually see anything, but I actually need to see the walls that I'm drawing my roof on. So I'm going to go ahead and say level 1 is underlaid on my level 2. And I'm going to go to architecture, and I'm going to go to roof, and I'm going to go to roof by footprint. You'll notice that you have like 3 different kinds of roofing. You can roof by footprint, you can roof by extrusion, and you can roof by face. Your roof by footprint basically works like the way your floor does, where you draw an outline around your building footprint, and you use that to create a roof. A roof by extrusion, on the other hand, works where like you're extruding, like you guys know what extrusion means in Rhino, so it works similarly. And a roof by face, which we're going to get to later, works with massing. We're going to touch on that later. So let's go roof by footprint. And again, I can just select the walls. So when you're roofing a building, it usually has an overhang. And that's just like the part of the roof that extends beyond the actual footprint of your building. And I'm just going to say that's like 600 millimeters. And now when you select your wall, it allows you to choose what side you want to place that line on. So if you go towards the interior face, you can place it on the interior face or on the exterior face. So let's just place that there. And sometimes when your roof is like super complicated, Revit just doesn't do it well or something. Like, I don't know. This software is full of, I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So let's see. Okay, now that you've drawn all the lines, if you select them, you notice they have no information. Now, when you're drawing roof lines in Revit, they should have slope information because your roof is not flat, except it's flat. And in order to give these lines the slope information, when you select them, you can check the defined slope. And now you can see the slope information on them. So this has a slope information, that has a slope information. And if you selected one of the lines, you can edit what angle it's sloping at. Or you can just edit the angle on the sidebar for everything. So let's say a 15 degree. Oh, actually, no. Control Z. Okay, let's go to the sidebar and say 15 degree. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, that worked. Okay. Worked just fine. I'm going to make that 25 degrees. And now this is what you call a heap roof, where all of the sides are sloped. Now, if, for instance, you wanted this that face to have a gable as opposed to a heap, slope. You can select the roof, edit the footprint, and we're just going to go to that line that we want to appear as a gable, and we're going to remove the slope from that line. And when we check that, it gives us a gable. So it's as simple as that. If your roof doesn't have a slope, and if one line doesn't have a slope and all other lines have as a slope, that line without a slope is going to give you a gable. If everything has a slope, it's going to give you a heap. I don't know if you guys know what the differences are, but this is a heap and this is a gable. Okay. So let's go to our floor plan. Actually, no. Yeah, let's go to our floor plan. And I'm going to punch some windows on this, just a couple of windows. So let's go window, and I have like different heights and stuff of windows. So I'm going to pick one, and I'm going to place that one here, and I'm going to pick another one, a random one, and place that here. And let's go to our 3D view. Now you would notice in the 3D view that the windows are not on the same height. And typically the top of your window should all be aligned on the same height. So if we wanted to align this small window with that large one, we can easily just go to modify and use the align tool. And this also works in 2D, and I'll show you. So you select the align tool, and let's zoom into here. And we're going to try and select the top plane of this larger window. And in order to do that, over your mouse on the window and press tab until you get to that selection. Press tab, click it. Let's click that. We can do it again. Tab, click that, and then I'm gonna go to the smaller window and click the same plane, and it's just gonna bring that up and match it. And if you were working on plan level, and let's unhide our drawing. Okay, and you had this wall. Actually, let's bring that in. Okay, so now let's say we had this wall not aligned with what the drawing, with the position of the drawing. We can also go ahead and align that. And so you select the align tool, select the line that you want to align to, which is our drawing line, and then select the wall. Again, press tab, and that just pushes it. So very easy fix. Let's go ahead and hide that again. Now you can offset walls, you can offset lines, you can offset anything, just like you do in Rhino. And basically all of your offset, mirror, align, all of those tools are in your modified panel, and they're in the modified section of the modified panel. So you've got align, you've got offset, you've got mirror, where you're allowed to pick an axis as a line, and you've got mirror, where you're allowed to draw an axis as a line. Again, you've got split element, split with gap, move, copy, and you would notice that when you place your mouse on the command, there is that small box that comes up, but at the top of that dialog box, there is a name of the command, and in a bracket there is a short key for it. So if you pressed key O, it would activate the command copy. You've got rotate, you've got trim and extend, you've got extend/trim, you've got multiple extends and trims, you've got array, and you've got scale. And you also have pin and unpin and delete, of course. And so I'm going to walk through all of these. I've gone through align already. So let's go to offset. So if you wanted to offset a wall, select the offset, and you can set the sort of distance that you want to offset your wall at. Let's say that's 1000. And I'm just going to come here, and if I put my mouse towards the exterior face, it offsets to the exterior face of the wall. And if I bring it to the interior face, it does offset to the interior face of the wall. Okay. And I can mirror as you would do in Rhino. So if I use the mirror pick axis, I can pick the let's draw a line. Okay, so you have this line that is going to be your axis, and you want to mirror this wall. So let's click the wall and go to click and pick mirror axis, and then we can pick that mirror axis, and it just mirrors it across that axis. Similarly, you can go ahead and draw the axis for your mirror. So click that, select the line, press enter, and draw an axis, and it mirrors it like you would do in Rhino or AutoCAD. Okay, and you've got move. Select the wall you want to move, press enter, click select a point and move it from that point to another point. Now you would realize sometimes when you want to move, so let's draw, actually let's draw this kind of wall. And let's try to move that wall. Now, if you select this wall and you try to move it, you can move it around in any way. So I can move it from here to like a diagonal, direction. However, there is a way to constrain your wall so that it only moves along the X and Y axis. And if you want to do that, just click the move and come up to the list of menus below this ribbon, and you have the constrain. And if you check that, and now you try to move it, constrains it to moving along two axes. You can copy, and copying works just the same way. However, there is something you can do when you're copying. If you want to make multiple copies of a wall or anything, you can just select the multiple, and that allows you to take it and drop it in multiple places. Rotate, the same thing, select that, put the angle in, say 15, and you rotate by 15. Okay, so now I want to show you, I've gone through the trim. I want to show you the trim/extend elements, single element. So if you wanted to extend this wall to get to that wall, you can select that wall and go to, and use that command. So select the edge of that wall, and then select the wall that you want to extend, and it just joins it up. And if you needed to do that multiple times, let's do this. Bring that down. Bring that down. So if we had multiple walls that we wanted to extend, then you just use the extend multiple, and go ahead and do that, do that, and do that. And you can extend multiple lines at the same time using the same single reference. You can also array. So when you click the array and you select an object to array and you press enter, it gives you an option of doing a linear array or a radial array. And it would ask you for the number of arrays that you want to make. So let's do a linear array, and let's say we want to make like 6, okay? And so I will just select one point, a reference point, and another reference point, and it would make the 6 copies of whatever I'm arraying. And if I wanted to do a radial array, oh, right, sorry. So when you do your array, it groups it. When it makes the 6 copies of whatever you're arraying, it groups it into one group. So you have to ungroup it first before you can edit each of them. That's just to keep in mind. So ungroup that. Let's move that, and let's do a radial array. And I'm going to go from this angle to that angle, and I'm going to say maybe 8. And it would give me 8 copies of that. Okay, now there is a pin and unpin. Now so for instance, if we, I'm gonna go ahead and unhide this drawing again, a famous drawing. Now if I was drawing my walls over this CAD import, and for some reason I clicked on it and it moved, that would, I mean, I could easily undo it, but if I had done it multiple times, you know, it could sort of mess things up. So in order to avoid that, you can select that drawing that you have imported, and in that menu, you will see a pin, and you can just click that icon and it pins it. Otherwise, when you select the drawing, the object, whatever it is, in around the centroid of that object, you also see a pin with a line. You can just click that to unpin or click that to pin. Works the same way. And now when you pin it, you can't move it. You can select it, but you cannot move it. So that is pinning. Let's see, what else can I go through here? Okay, so let's say you had multiple levels. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that roof. Let's say you had like 10 levels and you wanted to draw this exact same thing on 10 levels. If you created 10 levels and you went to each one and you started drawing it, you should ask someone else, because there's probably an easier way to do that. Actually, in life, if you're ever finding yourself repeating the same thing over and over, maybe ask questions or Google, because there's probably an easier way to just get it done at once. At least that's what I do. I hate stressing myself. So let's go to Solid View and let's create multiple levels. Go to Architecture. I'm going to select Level. And I'm going to snap the level with the existing level. So I'm going to go to that edge. And let's say it's at like 3,000. Drag and drop another 3,000. Drag and drop. And let's say another one. Drag and drop. So now I can go to my 3D view. I can select all of this stuff that I have drawn already. And I can go to my modify, and I can go to copy to clipboard, okay? And if I went to paste and clicked on the arrow underneath, and I said align to selected levels, it would ask me what levels I want to align that to. Now it's on level 1, but I want to align it to level 2, 7, 8, and 9. And I click OK. And it would just like copy that multiple times on those levels. You'll notice that the walls are intersecting. That's just because the first level, the height of the first level is different from the other ones. Anyways, easy fix. Okay, so now let's look at exporting stuff. If we had this 3D model and we wanted to export this as an image, for instance, there are a few visual things we can do. We can add shadows to it. If you wanted to edit the shadow, you just need to go to the visual style, click on that, and go to your graphic display options. Now, under the graphic display options, you can choose a hidden line. You can choose a shaded line, a shaded view. If you apply that, it comes out with some colors. You can choose a realistic view, consistent color, realistic view, all of that. The realistic view it maps your material overlays onto the walls and floors. So let's go ahead and use the hidden line. Let's show ambient shadows. Let's see what that looks like. It's like your sort of like an occlusion render with like soft shadows on the edge. And there's this thing that the new Revit has. It's called Enable Sketchy Lines. Actually, it's had it since like 2013 or so. I'm gonna draw that out, and it makes it look like a sketch, sort of like what you'd get from SketchUp. Looks cool sometimes. We can go to lighting and we can play around with the intensity of the shadow. So if I drop that, it becomes really light. If I took that to 100%, it becomes black and white. So this is like nice for playing with graphics. You can play with the sun, ambient light, all of that. You can go to the sun settings, and you can sort of play with the angle of the sun. If we change that to like 80 or whatever and apply that, the angle changes. So you can just mess around with that, see what works for you. And let's say this is what I want to export. I can go to my options and go to export, and there are a bunch of like export options. I can export it as a CAD format, and exporting as a CAD format is good if you're going to render in, say, 3ds Max or I don't know, any other software, for instance. You can export as a DWG. The thing to note though is when you're exporting as a DWG, you want to export. If you want to export a model, then you want to export in your 3D view because that would give you a model export. If you exported a DWG in your plan view, it's going to give you a plan drawing. If you exported it in your elevation view, it's going to give you an elevation drawing. And so yeah, you can go ahead and just click next. This is like more complicated stuff. We can touch on that later in the semester. And you can choose the file format the sort of like the AutoCAD file you want to export to and save it. You could also export as JPEG, and if you go all the way down, you'd see images and animations, and you can choose image and animation, go to image, and it would bring up this dialog. Now, there are two ways to go about this. You can fit your image to a certain number of pixels, which works most of the time. Or you can zoom your image to a percentage of the actual size. I usually prefer to use this because it gives you an option of choosing what the resolution of your image is, and I just go 300, and I can say 500% or whatever. And you can actually export the current window, or you can export a visible portion of the current window, or you can select certain views and sheets. And if you did that, you can select multiple views and sheets. Let's say we wanted to export that and 3D view and elevations, and you just click OK. Yes. Okay. And you can browse a destination point for them. I'm going to put that on my desktop. I'm going to save it as project 1. Let's just a new folder. Okay. I'm going to save it there, and I'm going to say OK. I hope that doesn't take too long. And so when you go to your desktop and you go to that folder, it basically just exports all the multiple views that you've chosen to export at the same time. Okay, good. We have 2 already, so that's good. I'm going to cancel that. Yeah. So if I let it finish, it would sort of bring in all the views that I wanted to export. Okay. You can also export to, which is the last one I'm going to touch on, you can export to IFC. Now, something you guys need to know about Revit is when you upgrade your Revit software, you cannot downgrade the file. So like you have in AutoCAD or you have in Rhino, where like you're using Rhino 6 and you can save your file as like Rhino 4 or whatever so that you can share it with someone. You cannot do that in Revit. If you upgrade to Revit 2018, you're there. You're not getting any 2015 file that you're going to open. It's not going to work. You're not getting any 2019 file you're going to open. But there is a way to go about that, and it's through exporting as an IFC. And an IFC basically allows you to share your model with people. But when you export it as an IFC and person imports the IFC, you're not able to edit it. It's like when the architects are working with engineers, the engineer gives you their model and you put their model in your model, but you don't edit their model. So that's what the IFC would be their model being placed in your model, but you cannot edit it. And so if you selected that option, you just save it as an IFC, and that's all. And I'm going to import one IFC so you can see what I mean. So if you go to insert, let's link an IFC. See if I can find that. Okay, So this was something that Alex did in a 2018 Revit version, and I'm using a 2016, and so I'm able to import that. Oh, sorry. Why am I not seeing it? Okay, for some reason I'm not seeing it. Okay, I'm not gonna bother spending time on that. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's go to mass now. So when you have a base model that you're working with in Rhino, you can bring that base model into Revit and convert it to like your Revit walls and stuff like that, and create drawings from it. There are constraints, of course, attached to that. But the one thing to know is that, first of all, you can export as different formats from Rhino to Revit, and it would work. But each of them have more constraints than the other. The best that I found is SAT, which is an ASCII, gives you an SAT format, and that works really well in Revit because it exports as a NURB. But you can also export as a DWG, you can export as a DXF, and you can export as a SketchUp. SketchUp is the most useless, let's just put it that way. And you would see why. But one thing to always keep in mind when you're exporting stuff from Rhino to Revit is you want it to be as simple as possible. One. Two, you also want to make sure that you're exporting just surfaces. So you're not actually building, yeah. So you're not actually building walls and trying to export that to Revit. Like you're not having something like this where that's one wall and that's another wall with thickness, and you're trying to export that. You want to build everything in surfaces so that you can attach walls onto them in Revit. And this is a geometry just built, like it just has surfaces, it has no thickness. So if I exploded that, you would see that it has just, like just single surfaces. That's what you want to export to Revit. So I already exported this from Rhino using those file formats I mentioned. And so I'm going to go to Revit and import them to show you how they work. Let's turn off that shadow. So let's go to massing and site. Now under massing and site, you have conceptual mass, which is what we're going to be focusing on. But you also have model site. We're going to touch on that maybe later. And we're not. That's for when you want to make topography in Revit. So like you want to make your site work and all of that. This is where you do that. So for in-place mass, for conceptual mass, we're going to go ahead and create an in-place mass. And let's name that mass 1, yeah? Oh, 4, whatever. So under your in-place mass, you can import your Rhino model. So let's go to Insert, and we can link a cat. And if you go to the file types that you can import, you would see all the types that are supported. So again, the DWG, DXF, DGN, I have no idea what that is, ACIS, and SketchUp. So let's start with the DWG. Now, because this is a very simple file, I think it's going to be good. First of all, I'm going to see what my units are. So I'm working in meters in Rhino, and I'm just going to change that to meters. And I'm going to bring that in, and I'm placing at level 1, BO footing, doesn't matter. Anyways, bring that in. I can change the level to level 1, and that will be fine. Okay, let's finish mass. And I'm going to select all the walls in my view. And in order to do that, I can select one wall and right click and say select all instances visible in view. And I'm just going to right click and hide that as elements. And then I'm going to hide these ones too. Okay, so now, this is my DWG file. And if I wanted to convert this to walls and roofs and all of that, I can go ahead and just go to architecture, go to wall. And when I go to wall, there is an option to pick faces, and that's what I want to use. However, if you go back to architecture and you choose that, you click on the arrow underneath, you can also wall by face. You can do it either way. So let's choose a wall by face, pick our wall type, and just start to select the surfaces. So select that, there's none here. Select this and select that. And yeah, it says can't make wall extended, can't keep wall extended. I'm going to click OK. And that's just because this is a very sharp angle, and Revit cannot figure out how to make that angle work between the two walls. So in that case, you want to go back to your Rhino model and, figure that out. Make the angle wider. So we have the walls, and now I want to put a roof, and I can easily just go to roof, roof by face, and just select the face and create roof. And now it's created my roof on the interior face of that mass, but I want it to be on the exterior face. And to do that, I can just easily come here and say picked faces. I'm going to say reference face at the bottom of the roof. And so it's going to flip that. This geometry doesn't have a flat floor, and Revit is not going to consider that wobbly thing as a floor. I think that's like the only major constraint with these, is that a floor has to be a floor. I mean, think about it, right? So yeah, you can also go ahead and, so let's say for instance, this is not supposed to be a solid wall. Actually, let's go to that one that didn't work. So if that's not supposed to be a solid wall, I'm going to delete that. And I can create a curtain wall. And if I said, oh, create a curtain wall system, click that, I can select a face using the select multiple. Just going to select that face, and then I can create the system. And it just gives me that curtain wall system. And I'm going to remove this jagged line thing. Yeah, good. Okay. Makes more sense. Looks like the Joker font. Anyways, so we can edit this curtain system. And we can, so right now you'd notice that the curtain system has really straight edges, and our wall is not as straight as that. Like, it's very curved. But that's because the curtain system has to be a flat panel of glass, at least in Revit. And the easy solution to that is to subdivide that curtain panel into more panels. And to do that, just edit it. And let's say spacing is like 200 by 200. Click OK. And it's just going to multiply the panels. And now it looks a lot finer. I mean, you still have like those jagged edges, but that's Revit for you. Okay, and we can go ahead and give those curtain mullions. We can go back there and say interior type, circular mullion, rectangular, one by whatever. Like, you can, put all of that stuff, and it would update it. Okay, right, and you just put your mullions there. Now that's too tiny, so it doesn't look real. I mean, it doesn't look like it makes sense, but you get the idea. Is everyone good? Does anyone have a question so far? Nope. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide that mass. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to right click, and actually I can just go to massing and site, and the first option there says show mass, form, and flaws. And if I click that, it's going to hide all the mass that I have. So now let's go ahead and create some stairs and ramps and all that. Then delete that and hide my former walls and floors. And we can go to a first level, go to architecture, and we can draw a stair. And so to do that, just click your stairs, and you have, you can draw it manually or you can sort of model it in. And to model it, just select the run, and let's draw a run here. So let's say that run is supposed to stop there, and we have a landing that takes you to another run. You can draw that run up to there, and then click the landing, and let's draw a landing from oh, sorry. You have the first run, you have to draw the second run. So we draw the second run going the other way, and it automatically creates the landing. But if it doesn't create the landing, you click your landing, you select the first run, and you select the second run, and it creates a landing between them. And if we check that and go to our 3D view, that's what our stairs looks like. You can also make a ramp the same way. Where is that now? So yeah, you got ramp there. Just make a single run. If it's a straight ramp, click that, select it, check it, and you got a ramp. And you can sort of determine what level your ramp is going to. You can offset the level, and you can put a ramp slope if you edit the type and scroll down, and it asks you for a ramp max slope. And so 12 means you have 12 meters in length for every 1 meter of height. Okay, so you just got to calculate that and figure out what the slope is. That's an ideal slope. However, if your ramp was, set, say, a curved one, you can also do that. Just go to ramp, and you can sort of draw it manually by selecting a boundary and a riser. So your boundary would be the side edge of your ramp, and the riser would be the sort of start and end, So let's select the boundary, and let's draw an arc. Okay, so let's say that's what our ramp is supposed to look like. I'm going to make that bigger. I can offset that ramp and say offset by 1000. Yep. And then I can put a riser here and a riser there. And if I click OK and I went to my 3D view, it will create my curved ramp. So just the same way we brought in a mass from Rhino as a model and we applied walls into it, if you had a more complex shape of a ramp, you can draw that in Rhino, export it as a CAD and import it, and then select the lines and draw your ramp from those selected lines. I guess we're maybe a couple more things. Oh, that seems to be it all. Well, so if you want to change the direction of your ramp, it's going this way, you want it to go the opposite way, or even your stairs, just go to your plan view, and there's that arrow at the end of the ramp that signifies what direction it's sloping up. And if you clicked on that, it would flip it. Same with the stairs, it would flip that. And so you can just flip the direction that way very easily. So does anyone have any question? Okay, good. Yeah, we're good. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of you. Oh, you have a question?
On Sunday.
Go over that? Alex, I think. Yeah, it's gonna be posted.
Oh, okay.
I don't know when, because Branko said it was gonna post it, but.
Branko, on his, when he was sending out the mail to update you guys on this.
Yeah. Well, you guys should get that hopefully before the end of the week.
Next Saturday.
Hopefully before Sunday.
We'll get on his case if anything.
I mean, if you get it Sunday morning, that's... No? Someone else had a question, yeah?
You know how to draw a circular elevator? I tried to find it online.
I mean, like, you wouldn't draw it, you would model it, and I'm not going to show you guys that now, because, like, that's more advanced stuff than we've covered so far. What I would do is, you should find it online, like maybe search again.
Pre-made one, import it,
Oh yeah, you can do that. You can make one in Rhino and import it as a mass and just place it there, right? The only challenge with that is and what I do to work around that is when you import that kind of thing into Revit and you import as a mass, you can't really make a drawing out of a mass. So what I do is I create a really thin wall and I apply that to it, and I just call the wall elevator or whatever, and I can now include in my drawing like a wall of like 10 thickness or something.
I'm sure you know a lot of a good website to look at Revit City.
Yeah, Revit City, Revit Library, Revit City. There's another one. Anyways, I can't remember. You can also look at GrabCAD. I think they have some Revit files, Revit models there. But Revit City has a very huge library of models. I wouldn't model anything in Revit. Like, it's just, except you absolutely need to. Yeah.
Are we just going to be modeling like the basic wall types, or are we going to be running the wall types using those?
Importing a wall type.
Like, you can draw with like bricks and stuff, but like I know any of us use bricks in our project, but like this is just like essentially just gypsum, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really think that matters in you guys' case. But for the knowledge of that, you can create, so you typically don't import wall types, you create them. And if this is a basic wall generic, if I went to edit type, and it would bring you to this dialog, and you go to the structure and you try to edit that, it would break down the sort of layers of the wall, and you can like start to add layers to it. So this doesn't have any layer, it's basically just a solid, that's it. A solid with thickness, it has no material, nothing. But if I wanted to, here, instead of creating one, I can just go to another one. So let's say, for instance, exterior brick on CMU, and I doubt many of you even know what the assembly of that is, but if for the knowledge of it, you can go to edit, and you would see that that has a lot of layers. That has your brick, which is the exterior face. It has your vacuum, like the air gap. It has rigid insulation, damp proof, whatever, like concrete and all of that. And that's from more like technical stuff, like if you're going to create a wall assembly and section that and all of that. So for your project, I think your generic 200 is good. What you can do is you can go back to generic 200. So if, for instance, in your house project, you didn't use a 200 thick wall, you can just go ahead and edit that and change the thickness to whatever. You can change to 100, click OK, and you can rename it, say generic 100. Sorry, and click OK. If you add 100 and you wanted a 150, you can edit that. You can duplicate it and say generic 150. Click OK, then go to edit, and then go to the width and go 150, click OK. And now you would have generic 100 and generic 150. So that's how you would add to your wall types. Does anyone have any other question? Are we all good? Okay, thank you very much.